Welcome to Coffee and Conversation. I'm Honorine, and today I'm with Camille Lewis, who is pursuing a PhD in educational psychology. Camille, welcome, and thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
My first question for you is, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Camille Lewis. I am a first year in the Educational Psychology Learning and Cognition program. I am a native Tallahassee. I'm from Tallahassee. And previous to entering into the doctoral program, I was a teacher. So I got my undergraduate degree in elementary education at USF in Tampa, Florida, and taught for a number of years there. And then moved up here and also taught for a couple of years at Bond Elementary here in Tallahassee. I decided to pursue academia or leave the classroom because I've always worked in Title I schools, and I would see needs of the children, of the students that the school wasn't able to address. So that led me to community psychology at Florida A&M University. And at FAMU in the master's program, I've got, interested in research, and I started to understand the impact of research and how that impacts policy, which impacts the school system. So that led me to get my PhD, just wanting to be more knowledgeable about research and be able to make a larger impact in my community.
Okay, awesome. So many questions from here. You said that, you wanted to go into academia because you felt like you needed to understand better the system. So what is your goal with your PhD?
So my research focus is on research dissemination and closing the research to practice gap. So something I discovered as a teacher, or I guess I discovered once I got in my master's program, is there's a whole bunch of knowledge out, at universities, and researchers conduct so much research and they have access, to so much knowledge through these academic journals. But as a teacher, I never saw, heard, imagined the research that's going on in the university. So I guess my focus or my inspiration for my research is just wanting to close that gap. Like all this information that is encapsulated up here in academia should be in the hands of teachers who are working with the children and working with students.
Okay, so what were you teaching before?
I taught second grade, and then I taught fifth grade reading and social studies.
Okay, and so now with a PhD, do you want to go back to school and teaching, or do you want to go back to school, in elementary school and primary school and middle school? Or so do you want to go back as a teacher or more as an administrator?
That is a great question. Whenever people ask me what I want to do now that I'm pursuing a PhD, I feel like a 16-year-old where adults are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I don't know. I love teaching. I absolutely love teaching. And I love teaching children. So I definitely want to be in a position where I can engage with children on that level. But, as far as where I want to end up, I'm also involved in a lot of community organizations and working closely with community and closing the research to community gap, because the same thing, how research can help classrooms, it can also help, community organizations and nonprofits and things. So I don't have a clear answer to that question. I don't know exactly where my PhD is going to lead me, but I'm excited about the possibilities.
Yeah, and you have 4 more years to decide, so you have plenty of time. So you said you were very involved in community organization. What does this look like? What do you do exactly?
I do a variety of things. I have a gardening company, so we teach gardening classes to children in the community, and food sovereignty and the power of growing your own food. And then I work with some educational consulting companies called Joma Works, where we work with community organizations and teach them the skills that they need to develop leadership, and then also teach them how to access funds from foundation and how to grow their nonprofit to impact the community more. And then there's also a purpose program that is associated with FSU and FAMU over at FAMU DRS, and they do work in the community and work with the students at FAMU DRS. So I do a variety of things.
Wow, you definitely love teaching.
I love children. I love teaching. There's so much power in teaching. There's so much power in learning, and there's so much to learn. I can spend my whole lifetime learning and still not know everything.
Yeah, that's very true. There is always something to learn. So you said you're a first year. Wow, being a first year student right when COVID hit, how did you feel about it? Because in America, being a student at a university is an experience more than being a student only. So how did you, even though you're from Tallahassee, but how did you connect with the people from your department? Were you able to connect, or did you feel more like alone in the whole process of being a first-year PhD student?
So I was definitely nervous when I started the PhD program because it was in August and it was smack dab, in the middle of the pandemic. And I was disappointed because I like to talk to people face to face. I'm a people person. So I was really disappointed that the first year was going to be online, but it ended up, not being as bad as I thought it was going to be. My department and my advisor are extremely supportive. So we have Zoom calls, multiple times a week, and, constant emails, constant collaboration, even in the midst of the pandemic. So I think I've settled into it. I am ready, to be in person again and to learn in person, because I believe that's how I learn best. But this past year hasn't been without challenges. I also have 2 young children. So, partially homeschooling, and then also being in a doctoral program, can be rough at times. And then if their school shuts down, they're home with me. So it's a process that I've been navigating, but my advisor is also a mother, and also has a young child. So being able to be with mentors and classmates who I can relate to and who can support me, and we support each other through the process, has been extremely important.
I bet. So how did you manage to be a mother homeschooling her children and a PhD student? Because I feel I don't have a lot of extra time as a PhD student, so I cannot even imagine being a mother of 2 children, young children, you said, right?
Yes. Time management. I've become a master of time management and schedules. One thing that I do that has completely changed the game is I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll work from 4 to, when my children wake up around 7. So those 4 or 5, those 3 hours, 7 days a week, that's almost like a part-time job. So scheduling blocks of time for school, for work, for family, and sticking to that schedule block has been a life-changing experience.
So can you tell me a typical day in your life?
A typical day. So each day is different, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic. So wake up, around 4 o'clock. I'll work till about 7, and then get my children up and get them fed and breakfast and dressed and get them off to school. And then I'll come back home and I'll have a series of meetings or, writing to do, working on research. I mentioned I have a gardening business, so I go out and I install gardens, in the community. So I might work on that for a couple of hours and then pick my children up. And after 3 o'clock, I try to dedicate that time to just family, because, they are my priority. And, we'll do the typical homework, dinner, bath. And then after they go to sleep, I'll get back on the computer and maybe type and write for a couple more hours before going to sleep and repeating it all over again.
Really? How many hours do you sleep per night?
I try to get 5. I will say 5 is my average.
Wow. And you're not like tired?
I think I'm a high energy person. Being an elementary school teacher, you're naturally like, so I think, I'm just a high energy person, and I love everything that I do. So I never wake up grouchy or angry, because I love gardening. I love my children. I love research. I love learning. So it's a blessing to me that my life is so full. Like I'm grateful to have a full life.
Wow. Yeah, it must be definitely full if you, and I like the fact that you said, I try to get 5 hours, you said, right?
5 hours, sometimes more, sometimes less, but I try to at least get 5 hours of sleep.
Wow. And the research says that you should get 8.
Research says.
Great. So what is your plan with your research? So you mentioned that you have an idea of what you want to research on, but is it just an idea, or in your program, you already started working on your research?
So in our program, we have to do 2 major research projects. So I've started working on the first one, which is our preliminary study, and then we have our dissertation. So my current research is around disseminating research and supporting teachers in their attainment of the knowledge and research that comes out of universities, and maybe even in their application. So my research is very, 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 very much in the beginning stages. But my ultimate goal is to produce research that supports teachers. Like I'm a teacher advocate, and I understand how hard teachers work. And with universities having the resources and the money and the access that we have at academia and in universities, I would love to find a way to spread those resources down to K through 12 public schools, and support teachers in any way possible.
And that makes me wonder, how is that possible? Because I'm thinking, all the access to articles, as you said, and books, and that usually comes free to us, but the library pays for it somehow, or it's like kind of agreements with other libraries. So how would that work for K through 12 levels teachers?
So there's different ways to access information, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a peer review article, because oftentimes the language that researchers write in, like we're not writing for a second grade teacher or a pre-K teacher, we're writing for other researchers. So if our intention is to conduct research that makes an impact in society, we also have to think about how do we share that research, whether it be through social media, through Twitter, through creating a professional development that the teachers can take a class by creating an infographic or a commercial, a visual of the research, but making sure if we are doing this research, it should be in the hands of teachers in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
That's very true. I really like this idea, of the visual, because as a teacher, you teach, but you also need to get better at teaching. And then, we do all this research, and I'm doing research, and sometimes I'm thinking, who is even going to read what I write? But at the same time, do I make it accessible for everybody? No, I don't. And so that's a very good point you make, using visual infography, social media. We don't realize the power of social media that it can have. Wow, that's inspiring. And so for my last question, how do you picture yourself in 5 years from today?
Finished with my degree. So it's a 5-year program, and in 5 years, I'm hoping to be done. And, I will hope that in 5 years, I also have a solid plan of the direction I want to go and the spaces I want to be in that can make, the most impact in my community. So who knows where I'll be.
So for you, it's very important to have an impact on your community.
Absolutely. That's what drives me. I grew up in this community, I live in the same community I grew up in. And it's what drives me. It's my passion. And I intend to take the knowledge that I gain at FSU and bring it right back to my community.
So if a person would ask you, but how can this benefit your community? What would you say?
Oh, so many ways. So I'm learning about policy. I'm learning about learning strategies. I'm learning about instructional design. So when I think about the schools in my community and the schools in my neighborhood, any way that we can improve or support teachers so they can then support students, or support parents so they can support their children, or support, community organizations so they can support the community. It's all interconnected. But, there's a lot of transferable skills that you learn in the doctoral program, from research to communicating to, speaking and writing. So I want to find a way to use these transferable skills to improve my community. And I'm not sure how that will look. It may look a lot, in different ways at different times, but my intention is to find a way.
Well, that sounds very inspiring and promising.
Thank you.
Thank you for this amazing interview. I feel I need to block my times better, because if you are able to be a full-time PhD student and a business owner and a mother and volunteering all around, I can do more stuff in my day than I actually do right now. Good luck with the end of the semester. It's always a busy time. So good luck with that. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.